Hello and welcome back to another episode of Manor Lords on my channel. In the last episode, we developed this area of Drei-Sternen-Bergweg, this dual town of a fortified star fortress, historical castle that was common in the European continental area in the medieval ages. Also, last episode, we colonized over here. We started building a small Reihendorf, a small row village in this area of Waldbrand, which will specialize in the production of charcoal and iron. In this episode, I have planned to build another large fort, another historical large fort. And I thought that the best place to put it down would be right on here, on this corner, on the border between our three realms and the Baron. It will be a defensive fort, so we will go through some of the defensive measures that were employed by most architects in the early medieval period to build a typical medieval castle over here, which hopefully would not only protect us in case of an invasion by the Baron, but might even be helpful to fight the Baron, and maybe we can lure his army close to our defensive siege weapons. So that's the plan for today. We will also, of course, develop Waldbrand slightly. We'll have to do that anyways, because we need all of the resources to build this fort over here. I will get started on putting down some further buildings and gathering some of the resources that we need, and then we can get started on planning out the layout of our castle. And then I will also go into more detail explaining what the castle is all about, how the defensive measures work, and what made it so popular in the Middle Ages. The first step that we need to take in order to accomplish our goal of building our castle is that we need to deforest this area over here. We need to get rid of all of these trees, because this is where I want to build the castle. Additionally, we need a bunch of planks and timber to build it, so we might as well take it from here instead of just replacing these trees with buildings and not getting the resources. So I will spend some time getting rid of this forest and adding a few more houses to our village so that we can fill all of the worker positions in our new logging and woodcutter camps. I will see you in a bit. Also, as a short update about Drei-Sternen-Bergweg, our village over here is now completely self-sufficient, so we are actively gaining in different resources, regional wealth, and we can even easily pay the king's tax. So this village is in a perfect state to be left alone, and I can come back to it when I want to change simple things, but basically it's done and it is able to sustain itself. The deforestation has been completed. This entire forest has been removed and all of the layout of the castle has been put down. So this castle type is called a concentric castle. Typical for concentric castles are the two squares within each other, where the inner square would be fortified further to make besieging even harder. It would be pretty much a fort within a fort. I also added some outer towers or outer pikes, star pikes. Oftentimes these would also be connected to the fortress, but since concentric castles didn't used to have these and I added them just for further defense, I'm not going to connect them, as we will have different castle types in the future of this series, which will definitely have more and various stars or pikes like this as part of their fortification. The part over here to the entrance of the fort is called the Barbican, And there were two types usually of Barbicans. One was one like this, where the entrance of the castle was additionally fortified by a gate fort, so to say. And the second type would constitute an entire wall surrounding the castle, similarly to the pikes that we put down here, only that the wall, of course, would be connected. And that would give the castle an immense advantage to protect their fields and also less important buildings that couldn't fit within the castle by just building a very simple wooden wall around their castle. I picked this spot because it's on a hill. If we compare it to the height of our village over here, we can see that it's quite high, and our street here follows the natural valley until here it spreads out into a flatlands and then heads up a hill over here. And I added, of course, really thick streets or roads for our people to walk on, because I feel like this castle with only one entrance would have a lot of people using this single road, and it would quickly become a very thick and very used muddy road. So now that everything has been planned out the way that I want this fort to look, more or less, we can go ahead and construct the manor house. And I will spend some time planning out the walls and towers of this, and then I will show you how exactly this will look. All of the walls and all of the towers have been planned out, and it looks, kind of full, especially here at the front, but historically this would have been the most guarded area because it's the only entrance to the castle. Unfortunately, in the game as of right now, it's not possible to build stone walls for your castle or manor in this case. So we'll have to imagine that this round wooden wall here with the three towers actually represents one single stone tower that goes pretty high. In the medieval era, obviously the castles were mostly built out of stone, but this game takes place around the 12th century, more or less. Especially single villages wouldn't have had castles with stone walls. We have our fortified pikes or stars over here everywhere surrounding the castle to prevent the gathering of large armies immediately close to the wall. Additionally, we have two towers out here, a garrison tower in the middle here with our manor and tax office. All of this is built on a hill. Historically, all of the castles would have been built in an elevated position to get a strategic advantage with the high ground. In this case, we did as best as we could, but it slopes down a little bit over here. So let's go ahead and get our single manor house in the middle here constructed by clicking on close. And now we can take a look at the general outline, looking really nice. Looks like I forgot some roads over here. I will add this in a minute, but it looks truly like a medieval castle would have looked. With the manor constructed and all of the manor buildings such as the walls and towers planned, it is time to fill up the areas in between these roads. These will be the buildings that will remain accessible after we construct the manor walls. Remember that it's important that we plan the walls before putting down any of these buildings. So after we have filled up these areas in between the roads, we can actually go ahead and build the walls and towers for this manor. I will now do that and fill these areas up with all different kinds of industry buildings and burgage plots and fields, and I will see you once that's completed. We have collected all of the resources to construct the walls of our concentric castle with a front gate Barbican and surrounding pike defenses. So let's go into the castle planner and commit all of these walls and gates to be built. Bam. Now they will spend another 12 years probably constructing all of this. Next to constructing all of the buildings inside of the fort, I also expanded our little Straßendorf, which isn't so little anymore, as now it expands all the way from over here, our newly founded deep iron mines, to the end of the map. Our castle has this really nice field pathway that follows to the gate, and I really think it couldn't look nicer. Over here I put all of our log and wood production. We have all of our woodcutters over here with foresters. Right next to that we have the charcoal production where the firewood is transformed into charcoal, and right next to that we have all of our bloomeries where the iron ore is smelted into iron slabs. These houses over here will be dedicated to blacksmithing. They will develop all of the armor and weapons that this village will produce, while the houses across the street will focus on shields and other wood related items, as they are the closest to the saw pits located right over here by our wood district. So it's all a little bit more streamlined, and hopefully this will increase the speed at which our castle is constructed. So let's get this historical concentric castle built. The fort has been constructed, and we can see the Barbican gate here protecting the entrance to the fort, and then the concentric layout of the fort itself with the two walls protecting the most inner buildings, and lots of outer towers which would shoot at charging enemies. Additionally to this protective layer, we have the outer towers, which form these pikes that go all around our castle and give additional protection to the villagers living inside, as they prevent large armies from attacking the gates and also serve as scouting towers to shoot at enemy armies before they have reached the city. Especially important for this fort is its strategic location on a hill, towering above the Reihendorf of Waldbrand, the row village that we have constructed, and strategically at the border with the Baron's lands. In case of an invasion, he would have to attack this fort first in order to get to our village. So let us take a walk up this road to the fort that we have constructed and see what impression it yields. So here we are walking up the long, very wide road that hasn't yet been completely traveled into the ground. We are passing some fields, and as we look to our left we can see the village of Waldbrand and the gardens of the people living on the opposite side of the street. On this side, of course, we have fields and more fields surrounding our fort, which we will also have to name later in this episode. Here we are getting close to the entrance, and we are immediately greeted by two outer towers that stand out of the wall and multiple more towers that guard the entrance to our fort. Following this street, we are funneled to follow it and face these additional 4 guard towers that would shoot at us if we were an invading army. Now we have entered the inner ring, and here are some general industry buildings, malt houses, some storehouses, and windmills, granaries. As we are friendly to this village, of course, as the Baron, we successfully passed the Barbican without dying and are now able to enter the innermost part of our concentric medieval castle. We are immediately greeted by the garrison tower, which unfortunately I didn't pay much attention to when building the other buildings, so it very weirdly bugs a little bit into this communal oven over here. But I think it still fits. I got very lucky with how the clipping turned out, so it kind of looks as if the bakery was added to as an extension to the garrison tower, as if the people inside of the garrison tower in their free time would bake some bread. We follow this street to discover some more interesting buildings. Here is the tavern, of course, with breweries around, and our tax office over here. And of course no other way to leave this innermost protected area unless we go through the same gate that we used to get into this area. Here, right next to our manor house, we have our church, which is unfortunately very far away from the villagers that actually live in our village. Mainly they live in the Straßendorf, so at the main street, but I definitely wanted the church to be inside of this manor fort, because yeah, I don't want it to be destroyed when we would be attacked. So yeah, it needs to be protected, as well as the tavern and all of the other buildings that we will only build once. Leaving this fort, of course, the only road that this fort offers you to leave, we can take some steps to the side and check out these protected areas closer to the entrance, which feature the trading post and on the other side the livestock trading post. If we track a little bit to the side of our main fortification, then we get to these outposts. These outposts are essential when it comes to the defense of our village, and with the positioning over here, I feel like we could see the enemy coming from miles away. Of course it doesn't work that way in the game, but historically this would have been the point of building your village or castle on top of a hill, so you could see very far and be aware of any enemies approaching. This seems to be the highest point in our village, and this street is also used a lot by the people living down in the village, in the valley, to get up to the fort, where they will store their goods, where they will work sometimes in the industry. And then we get down here to the actual Reihendorf with all of the market stalls along its one road, which of course I count as the one road includes all of the market spaces. So yeah, it definitely is a wide road, which extends pretty far as of right now, as we have extended our area to be able to house enough people to work in the emerging firewood and charcoal and iron industry. And of course, with the development of our manor and the building of the garrison tower, we have unlocked the recruitment of more retinues, which will aid us immensely when we will fight the Baron, which we will absolutely do in this series. But in order to get a really epic battle, I would really love to build up our army further before we engage that battle. And then of course we will use our siege weapons and castles and fortifications that we have built to our advantage. Would be quite disappointing if we didn't. Over here people are working hard in our deep mines, extracting the iron, which they will bring to these storehouses over here, from which the iron ore is brought to the bloomeries right across the street. We have a very efficient setup here, I would say, with the iron production from the mines and from the charcoal, which is right over there. We can see the smoke of the industry. This storehouse is built along the road that leads to the bloomeries and stocks all of the charcoal that is produced here to give the smelters a very short path to refuel, as well as the storehouse over there is built to only collect the firewood that is produced in the woodcutter huts over here, so that all of the charcoal producers also have a very short path. With our beautiful castle structure over here completed, it is now time to develop Waldbrand, so that in the next episode we may start colonizing this area of Nuslor. And I already said that we need to rename our village to something that also reflects the existence of this fort. And since our village already has this nice name of Waldbrand, which I think fits perfectly with charcoal production, as it literally translates to forest fire, I think a good name for our fort over here would be Eisenbergen, which translates to Iron Hills, as we are producing iron and this fort is located on top of a hill, and historically what a region produces and the location of a region played major roles when it came to naming them. So let's go ahead and change Waldbrand to Eisenbergen Waldbrand. Okay, we'll have to go with Eisenberg Waldbrand, as Eisenbergen, it's too long for this game, unfortunately. So we will go with Iron Hill instead of Iron Hills. Our region of Eisenberg Waldbrand here is developing very quickly, and our production of iron ore is through the roof. I haven't actually added people to the bloomeries yet, but this will happen any moment, as we have also a lot of charcoal stored. And firewood as well. We actually have more firewood than charcoal, so we should probably also put some more people on charcoal production, because charcoal is more efficient and we don't want to be using our firewood, we want to be using our charcoal to fuel everything in this area. So with our treasury of 8,800, let's actually go ahead and recruit some more retinues in Eisenberg Waldbrand. Also, I have stocked up a lot of barley because I haven't started employing people in these mold houses over here. I will have to take one person from our charcoal production to man this building, so that now we are able to get some malt going, and as soon as that is happening, we will turn these buildings into breweries. While these malt houses are converting barley into malt, we are now making ale, and soon some people at the will start working at the tavern, and we will be able to supply ale to our entire village. But in order to get someone working at the tavern, we will actually need to put down some more housing, and of course it will be located next to our main street over here. Since they'll be working in the tavern, I actually don't mind if they also have a field over here, a vegetable plot. So we will go ahead and build some of these as well. Let's put down some normal housing like this, and again a plot like this. Nice. And then we can finish this up with something, yeah, just 3 houses like this. Alright, with these houses constructed, we can upgrade all of these houses over here to a blacksmith's workshop. We'll do 3 of them. We can pause 2 of them if they produce too much, but I really want this small area to be dedicated to blacksmithing, and I feel that 3 people over here would definitely build their house to be reflective of that fact. I have assigned a family to the tavern over here, which will start distributing all of our ale that we are now starting to produce within our brewery over here. And we can also upgrade our church, so now it's only a matter of time for us until we reach the highest town level of a large town. So we will upgrade these buildings over here to level 2 so we can get some variety of clothes going on our market stalls, because that is a requirement for level 3 housing. Let's get that done and then I will see you in a bit. We are upgrading some houses, so these houses over here have been upgraded to level 3 and these over here are about to be level 3, as well as these houses down here which have been upgraded to level 3 or are being upgraded to level 3, and due to that we have unlocked our next settlement level, with which we will unlock basic armor making so that we can produce helmets. We will get both of these in today's episode, and then we have completed our goals for today and also the area of Waldbrand. Our buildings over here have been completed and we have unlocked the next settlement level. Of course, advanced armor making is the perk that we will pick up here, and master armor making is next, so I will see you when we can pick up the final perk and then distribute the jobs to the blacksmiths living in our village. We have unlocked the final settlement level and with that the master armor making perk. This village is now officially specialized in the production of armor. I will build some armor workshops over here. I think that is quite fitting. It's quite close to our storehouses over here with all of the iron slabs stored. So yeah, this should be quite efficient. And then these houses can immediately get to work and produce armor for our village of 3 Sternen Berweg. The armorer workshops have been constructed and they feature some interesting buildings, yeah, with anvils and some storing and a forge. Very nice. I haven't actually looked at these armorer workshops so far in the game. They look beautiful, absolutely amazing. Over here I have built some storehouses as well as granaries to support these pack stations over here, with which we have started trading along this route with 3 Sternen Berweg, our neighboring village over there, just behind that forest. With the production of armor, and specifically plate armor, in our village of Waldbrand, we have officially completed our goal for this area. And that was of course the production of charcoal and iron, as well as armor specifically and weapons. So not only have we constructed this beautiful concentric medieval fort, including a historical Barbican to guard the entrance, but also we have completed the industry of this area, and with that probably also the amount of people that will be living here and the amount of housing that this village will need to support. With the completion of this village, we are perfectly set up to settle Nusslohe and lay the foundation for the construction of the largest fort so far. It will also be a medieval fort, and I hope that you enjoyed this episode of Manor Lords, and if you did, that you like and subscribe to follow up on the next episodes, where we will be constructing more forts and more medieval villages, going into the context of their construction and use, and expanding our area of dual fort villages. I hope you enjoyed this concentric castle with Barbican, and that I'll see you in the next episode of Manor Lords. Goodbye.